The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to In Conversation with Alethia. I am your host, Alethia O'Hara-Stephenson. In this show, we'll interview everyday people who are doing amazing and inspiring things in our community. This show's purpose is to educate, empower, and inspire. Today, I'm honored to have our very first guest, Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, the Deputy Mayor for the Town of Shelburne. Before I introduce Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, I'd like to give you a brief background about him. He is the first Black lawyer in TTC. He is also the first councillor for the town, Black councillor for the Town of Shelburne, and of course, the first deputy mayor. He has a track record for doing amazing things in his community, especially his Jane and Finch community where he grew up, as well as the community of the Town of Shelburne and overall Dufferin County. So please help me welcome Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson to the show. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it is a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm actually honored to have you as my very first guest. I have to say that the book, Driven to Succeed, I'm excited to read it. You know, I had a chance to go through the very first few chapters, and I can't tell you how inspiring and motivating that book was for me. But my question to you is, what was your motivation around writing this book?
Oh, so we're going to get right into it, right?
Yes, we're going to go right into it.
All right.
Yes.
Well, the reason why I wrote the book, and again, thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing great things with your show. And I'm very honored to be your first guest. But the reason why I wrote the book was really just to inspire our youth and our young people, to let them know that the slogan that I use, it's not how you start in life, it's how you decide to finish, and that you could come from challenging backgrounds, encounter difficult obstacles in your life, but if you persevere, surround yourself with the right people and really believe in yourself, anything is possible. So it's my hope that I'm able to share bits and pieces of my journey, again, the challenges that I faced, because oftentimes people look at success and they think it must have been an easy path, an easy journey, right? They see
Right.
the finished product, and it's not, life doesn't work that way. I mean, we may see that on social media, but that's not the way real life works. And so the book is really to show the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride, but the perseverance and really getting to that finish line. And even though I've achieved many of the things that you've spoken about, there's still much more to be done.
I love that. You touched on the fact that, there were people around you, encouraging you along the way. Who were some of those mentors and role models that helped to shape the Steve Anderson that we see in front of us today?
Wow. That's easy for me. It really starts at, the training I got really was at home, right? And really seeing the hard work ethic my mom displayed, single parent household, as you mentioned, growing up in Jane and Finch, 8 siblings in total, and really just seeing her not make excuses for her situation, working hard every day, making sure that food was on the table. So despite the situation we were in, we never felt that we were in need of anything. So having a role model like that in your home and seeing that work ethic certainly really inspired me that no matter what situation and difficulties I would encounter in my life, if I had a similar work ethic like her, that I could overcome. And so having that, certainly having a good family core is important, my siblings. And one of the things I talk about in the book, the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people, with friends who will motivate you, sometimes even have you see things that you don't see for yourself. And,
Right.
and that was an important part for me in my journey.
Absolutely amazing. And, I love that you're acknowledging those who are there surrounding you and encouraging you along the way, especially how you talked about your mom. when you talk about, growing from the streets of Jane and Finch, and, there is a stigma around, Jane and Finch about,
Really?
well, the media portrays Jane and Finch in a certain light, right? But would you say Jane and Finch is, what everyone thinks Jane and Finch is? I have my own views. I think there are some, amazing things that come out of Jane and Finch and amazing individuals like yourself. But can you tell us a little bit about what Jane and Finch was like and growing up there, and then we can transition into, TTC and all of that good stuff?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the old saying in media is that, drama and violence and sex and gore sells papers and, gets people to click on the links to see what's happening. And I think a lot of that certainly surrounds the conversation with Jane and Finch, right? The violence, the gangs, the shootings, as if that's the only thing that's happening in Jane and Finch. I think for those who want to see good, just like in anything else, if you want to see good, you could find it. And there's certainly a lot of good in Jane and Finch. I'm just happy to be one of those examples of the good that is there. And so that's why it's important for me, no matter where I go, what platform I have, never to forget my roots and where I came from. And I'm always proud to talk about how I came from humble beginnings at Jane and Finch. And it's important because I want to make sure that people are able to see where I'm at right now, especially in that community, our young and our youth, and to let them know that this ascent is possible for them.
Absolutely amazing. And I know you have been going back into your Jane and Finch community on a regular basis, talking, giving conversations, and having conversations with the young people in the schools and in the community itself. You even have an award, I believe, in the Jane and Finch community. Can you touch on that a little bit and the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that out. I mean, this is an award that my best friend Ian Daly, who's also a lawyer, we both grew up in Jane and Finch, and as I mentioned, we find that it's important to give back. It's this notion of achieving a certain level of success and forgetting where you come from. That's not what we subscribe to. So we understood, both of us, the importance of somebody lending us a hand, inspiring us, and we feel it's important that we return that favor, as they would say, pay it forward. And so we're blessed enough to be able to go back to many of the schools in Jane and Finch and to hand out achievement awards, really just to inspire the youth to pursue excellence.
Powerful excellence. That's what you're all about, and that's what this book is all about, right? Driven to succeed. So, going through this process, what did you learn about yourself? I can imagine you had to go back and you had to go deep and go into some memories, your memory archive, and talk about your childhood, relive your childhood. But in that process, what did you discover about yourself?
How much I buried things, to be honest with you. Many things that happen in our lives, we tend to, I guess depending on what it is, to be honest, but we try to sort of move past it, right? With the things that we have, whether it's families, job, there's very little time to really dwell on what happened 20 years ago, 15 years ago, much less even when I was a child growing up in Jane and Finch. The writing journey, as you said, forced me to relive all of those experiences, whether it was the separation of my parents, the impact that had on me, the trouble that I got into as a youth as a result of dealing with that trauma, as I refer to it as in the book. So it allowed me to go down that path. Much of it was difficult, thinking about how I felt as a child, the feeling of my father not being there, and what that did for me, sort of my psyche and how I viewed myself and how I valued myself. Those were things I was happy to bury. But again, going through this journey forced me to face those demons head on and to address them. And I'm glad that I did. And I think, and what I hope, is the reader is going to feel that sense of authenticity when they read the book and really get a feeling that I have a better understanding of who this gentleman is. And that's the hope.
That's amazing. And so if I could sum that up, this process has made you stronger, more confident than the man that you were before, because you're able to overcome some of those demons and fears that you had from a childhood. Yeah,
I mean, I think when you bury things, you're not really moving on, to be honest with you, and they're just bound to resurface. So I think at some point it's best to address whatever the issues are in your life and take them head on. And for me, as I mentioned, I buried them quite some time ago. But again, this writing allowed me to face those demons head on, and I feel that I'm better for it. It helps me to understand the person that I've become, maybe some of the decisions that I've made, why I've made those decisions, some of the fears that I have, why I have those fears. And so instead of wondering, how did I become this person, going back and looking allowed me to not only discover for myself, but I've also discussed my journey with my family, my siblings.
Wow.
When I told them I was writing this book, and then they were able to share stories with me, fill in some of the blanks that I had as I was recalling my own stories. And so it was helpful, therapeutic for them, funny as well. And they're excited to certainly get their hands on the book and learn more about sort of how I saw it living in that same household.
Amazing. So can we expect any funny stories from this book?
Well, I mean, I'll leave that for the reader to gauge. I think there are going to be a few laughs. I think, most people see me as a deputy mayor and they think, okay, this real serious guy, is responsible for the town of Shelburne and Dufferin County as a whole. And so they just think that, I was born serious and that's how I conduct myself. But I think, when people take a look-see of that, I think there will be a few laughs in there as they see some of the things that has happened to me. But at the end of the day, what I really hope for the most is that when they put down the book, they feel a sense of inspiration. Yes, this is targeting the youth, but this is for everybody. And my hope is that people will leave this book feeling better than before they picked it up.
Awesome. One of the things that we won't get a lot of time to delve into it, but I want to touch on your transition, graduating from law school and articling with TTC. Can you walk me through that journey? I know you talked about it in the book where, you had your first interview and your second interview and you were successful. What was that process like for you?
As I described in the book, talking about, going back and it was surreal. And I don't even think that I sat down and gave a lot of thought to what that all meant. I mean, here I was, this skinny kid in Jane and Finch that would get up in the morning with my mom and take the TTC bus all the way to church. And the whole significance of the TTC was just instrumental because it was a vehicle that I was on a lot. And to go from that kid that would run to the back of the bus to sit in my favorite seat to now working as a lawyer for that institution, it was almost as my life had come full circle, working for that organization. So the fact that I was able to get hired out of all the applicants, considering where I had come from, it really meant a lot to me for sure.
Wow. Is that where your slogan comes from? It's not where you start, but how you finish. Is that where that phrase came about, or?
Yeah, I think it really was birthed by the fact that, again, you could start in difficult circumstances, but you don't have to stay in difficult circumstances. It's how you decide to react to the obstacles and the challenges in your life that's going to define your legacy. And I think the story is a good example of that.
That's powerful. Now, you touched on again the fact that, you had to article for the TTC and, your experiences growing up on the TTC. When you got the phone call to say congratulations, walk me through that moment. What was it like?
I got a job. I think most students can relate. You're in university and, you're one step closer to accomplishing your dream. And I'm thinking, man, I got a job. When people read this book, they'll see that the pathway to law school and actually ending up to the point where I was able to interview the TTC was not a straight road. I'm talking about twists and turns. You have to hold on to your seat to really follow me on this journey, my law school journey, ending up at the TTC. But yeah, it was a really good feeling, again, based on what I've told you before, is that childhood memory, understanding that I was working for this iconic institution. The TTC is a major brand, not just in Canada, but recognized around the world. And here I am, this young black skinny kid from Jane and Finch, now working at the TTC in this prominent position. So it was exciting. It was exciting to share with my family. They were very proud. And yeah, I'm fortunate to continue to be there even now, 17 years later. That's
amazing. Listen, we're going to continue this conversation after the break. So we're going to take a short break and we will continue with Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson. We'll talk a little bit more about his entry into politics. So we'll be right back. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Mark Grice, and I hope you'll tune in to Mark Grice, the artist, right here on Rogers. You'll see me take a photograph like this and turn it into a painting like this. I'll give you all the tips and tricks that you're going to need to make successful acrylic paintings on canvas. It really is the hottest show on Rogers TV.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome back to In Conversation with Alethia. I am here with Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, and we're going to talk about his intro into politics. So welcome back, Steve. So again, we're here talking about Driven to Succeed and, your transition from, TTC lawyer guy growing up in Jane and Finch and, the privileged seat of Deputy Mayor of the Town of Shelburne. What was that journey like? When you were younger, did you have aspirations of becoming a politician?
Absolutely not. This is something that I wouldn't say I stumbled into, but there were certainly experiences that, or events, I should say, that happened that really drove my interest into politics. Growing up, to be quite honest with you, in Jane and Finch, I didn't really see a lot of people that really looked like me where I thought this was possible. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't something that I envisioned at the time, but it was when I was working in my first couple of years of the TTC, that there was a shooting it was referred to as the Danzig shooting. It was a shooting at a barbecue, a community barbecue. Right. And I was at my office and I was thinking to myself, like, at that point in my career, I was already doing talks in schools, trying to motivate kids across the GTA to achieve excellence, as you say, as you mentioned before. And so when this happened, I was at my desk and I thought to myself, there's more I could do. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking in schools. I do believe I'm making a difference, but is there more that I could do to change the trajectory of some of the pathways that some of these youths were taking? And so at my desk, I found out who the local politicians were in the area. I reached out to them and said, listen, I'm a lawyer with the TTC. I have this platform. Mm-hmm. What could I do to help? And to my surprise, within minutes afterwards, both gentlemen responded to me and said, let's meet, let's talk. One being Mario Sergio, he was the MPP for the area, one of the areas that I reached out to. That includes the Jane and Finch area. Right. And he said, listen, why don't you come down and I'm going to invite you to a roundtable discussion with Dr. Eric Hoskins, who was the youth minister, I believe, at the time. And so I sat there with him and other community advocates as we talked about how to end gun violence and create youth opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. And it was really that experience and sort of seeing how the political process, the political platform could really impact the lives of a lot of people. And I thought, you know what, this is something that I could potentially do. I was certainly interested in. And then years later, it just so happens that I ended up being a politician myself.
That's amazing. Talk about foreshadowing. You've put it out there into the universe, and here we are today as a deputy mayor. Before we move to your deputy mayor position, let's talk about what that experience was like, because by then you were, a well-known TTC lawyer, with a number of awards, and you had the opportunity to go back into your Jane and Finch community with the MP and, the Dr. Hoskins, and meet the community and come up with a solution, a plan to make the community better. What was that like, and how were you able to work with the community?
Well, I mean, when you really care to make a difference, you are looking to find solutions and be part of solutions. And so what was it like? It was an amazing experience. It was life-altering for me. Obviously, I ended up in politics, and I think that experience there really had a lot to do with that. Again, it was really seeing how the political platform could really impact a lot of lives. Again, I was working in schools, I was, talking to youth, but this platform afforded me an opportunity to reach and connect with a lot more people and potentially and hopefully improve the lives of our community and the people in our community. So it was a great experience.
Amazing. And you talk about giving back to the community and impacting our young people especially. What is that like? And I know you've had interviews in the past where you talked about the experience of walking into a school and seeing how or young people respond to you? In your own words, what was that like?
Wow. It's rewarding to see youth look at you and feel hope and inspiration. And so how is it like? How does it feel? It's very emotional.
Yeah.
To know that these people or these young people are potentially seeing themselves in you and what is possible. You know, I talked about when I was growing up in Jane and Finch, not seeing somebody that looked like me in a political position of authority, in a high-ranking position. And so when I see them, I see them sort of looking ahead as to what is possible. And to me, that's in large part what it's about. It's about using this platform to inspire people who would never even considered that this was possibly for them. Maybe some people told them politics is not for you. Maybe it should be sports. It should be something else. And I'm here to tell any of those individuals that this is an opportunity. If you want it, you could get it.
Absolutely. And not just in politics, right? If you want to be a lawyer, right, you can absolutely become a lawyer, because here you are, you've done it. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a high school teacher that encouraged you on the path to become a lawyer too, right?
Yeah, it was a grade 11 teacher. And again, the power of influence.
Yes.
And you know, this speaks to why Ian and I go back to the community, because somebody both gave us a hand to say, you could do it. And it changed the trajectory of both our lives. Both of us became lawyers. And so we understand that power, and we want to make sure that we're using that power appropriately, going back and inspiring others. So yes, it was a grade 11 teacher. Law wasn't something I was really considering at the time. I had a whole bunch of things in my mind, becoming a bus driver, you name it, real estate agent. And it was that grade 11 law teacher that pulled me aside after class one day and said, Steve, you know what, I think I'm pretty confident, just the way that you are, your demeanor, the way you're working, how you're grasping the material, I think one day you'd become a really good lawyer. And hearing that changed the trajectory of my life, because she said it with such conviction that I believed it myself. And from there, it was putting the pieces of the puzzle in place to see how I could go about accomplishing that.
Wow. Again, it also speaks to the role that our educators play in our young people's lives, right? You know, you have the power to positively impact and shape their future. So it's very encouraging and inspiring to hear that.
Yeah, shout out to all the educators.
Yes,
for sure.
of course. When you talked about, again, in the book, you know, your transition into politics now, and, you know, you were first appointed as a councillor for the town of Shelburne. And of course, you were the first Black councillor, right? That comes with a certain amount of pressure, right, and responsibility. What was that journey like? What was that process like for you, from being sworn in and then sitting in that position? And
I would say, and this may sound surprising, maybe not for a lot of people who may be in a similar position, it felt lonely. And it's not like I didn't have supporters around me, my family, my friends, who were there from day one, always there with an encouraging word, reminding me what was possible. But it felt lonely in the sense that even though they were there in the background, in the environment that I was in and navigating it, I was the only one. And so I don't know if the people that were there could understand sort of the thought and the feelings that I had, being the only racialized person around the table. And so when you talk about the pressure, there's immense pressure. There's immense pressure because A, you don't want to let your community down.
Right.
B, you don't want to let yourself down. But as a racialized candidate or an elected official, there's also a sense that you feel like you have to be perfect because you don't want to mess things up for somebody else who may be looking to pursue that opportunity. And so in the book, I talk about, you know, feeling like you have to be Superman, jump over tall buildings, and run past speeding trains. Demonstrate that level of perfection because you feel that you have to, because you don't want to ruin it for somebody else. And so that in itself creates a lot of pressure, in addition to, you know, the other things that you would normally sort of pile on yourself. And so that was difficult to deal with for a period of time, for sure.
Interesting. Now, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. How do you manage your day-to-day? Because I know you're very active in the community. Of course, you're now very active as the deputy mayor, but you also have a full-time job still at TTC. How do you manage, for any young person listening right now, or any adult for that matter, listening, would want to know some of the tricks of, of the trade and how you are able to keep your sanity and, excel in all the things that you're doing, work, politics, community, etc., and family.
That's a good one. I'm still figuring that out myself. So young folks, if you're watching and you're listening, I look day by day. Yeah. Sometimes I'm amazed myself how I am able to balance both. But quite honestly, it comes down to time management and prioritizing sort of your schedule and staying on top of it, right? Writing things down, whether it's a paper calendar, electronic calendar, but at the same time still, if it's possible, making time for yourself, your family, and your friends, etc. So it's a really delicate balancing act, but I enjoy what I do, and with these positions come responsibility and sacrifices, and these are sacrifices that I'm prepared to make. But thankfully, I do have people around me that keep me focused, keep me driven, but it's difficult, I'm not going to lie. It's challenging.
What is the biggest lesson that you have learned as Deputy Mayor?
The biggest lesson, I would say, that's a really good question. What's the biggest lesson? That not everything that you seek to do, you're able to accomplish, and to be okay with that. People get into politics, they have a lot of ambition, they have a lot of ideas, they want to get a lot of things done. And if you're fortunate, you're able to get the majority of it done. If you're really, really fortunate, you might be able to get all of it done. But if you don't, it's okay. I think at the end of the day, what people care about is, did you really try while you were there? Did you really try to make a difference? And if you fell short on a few items, I think people are understanding of that. But it's the overall effort that I think people focus on. And so that was one of the lessons that I learned. I came in bright-eyed, a lot of ideas. I want to do this, I want to do that. Yep. I've been fortunate to accomplish a lot of things, but some things that I've wanted to accomplish, I haven't accomplished as of yet. And I'm hoping that when the next election comes around, that if I do decide to run, that I'll be given another opportunity to finish many of the things that I've started.
Wonderful. We're coming up towards the end of the show, and, I feel like this show can continue on for another hour, but if there's one lesson, one advice that you would give to any aspiring lawyer or even politician out there, what would that message be?
Believe in yourself. And, no matter what anybody says, people who may try to impose limitations on you, you may have some self-doubt for whatever reason, because again, where you live, your family circumstances, your social economic status, and you may think these items are not for you or these positions are not for you. And I'm here to tell you that they are, and I'm a living example of that. But it has to start with a sense of belief that regardless of what your circumstances look around you, you still have to stay focused on the prize that you want. And if you're determined enough and you're strong enough and you're eager enough, you will get it.
Wow, absolutely powerful. Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor and Steve Anderson, for joining us tonight. And if I could sum up everything that you have just said in just a few words, believe in yourself and you can achieve. Right? Don't let others set limitations for you. So go out there, put your dreams out there into the universe, everyone, and conquer the world. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an honor to have you on our show, and look forward to having you again sometime in the near future.
I look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
There's no greater support than a loved one's embrace. When you participate in the Kidney Walk or support someone who does, you're showing your loved one you've got their back.